Hello, everyone. It's Maureen here. Welcome to the Rising Star Book Club. So today is going to be an adventure. And we have a woman that knows adventure and has taken it to its highest peak. She is a 7 summer tier club member. What got that right? All those things. Anyway, Suzanne Nance is with me. Her book, Lead from the Top. It is enthralling. It's about leadership. It's about preparing. It's about team. It's about relying on others, but absolutely relying on yourself. And it's an adventure from Everest to the other mountains in the Himalayas to, I didn't even know half of this was like what this was like. I can't wait to share it with you. Suzanne, welcome to the show. And oh my goodness, yay.
Thank you so much for having me. It is my pleasure.
So let's talk about, you just climbed 7 of the tallest mountains on the planet. No biggie, right?
Right.
So let's get into a little bit of where, and then we'll get into this, that it becomes a bug. It becomes something that you need to do it again, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. So tell me from, that you said one day, that big mountain up there, I'm going to go climb it. Tell us how that started.
So I was back in the early 2000s. I was reading my favorite magazine, which was National Geographic's Travelers. I love that magazine. I'm so glad it's not in publication anymore because I always said, I want to go there. So they had an article that said, the snows, the glaciers on Kilimanjaro were disappearing and they were going to disappear by 2015. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had been a fan of Ernest Hemingway and read The Snows of Kilimanjaro. And I was this child of wild Omaha, Mutual of Omaha, where you saw the Kilimanjaro and the Serengeti. And I'm like, so I came, I was driving my kids to school one day and I heard it in NPR and they repeated it in some crazy brain idea where they're going to put black tarp on the top. And I'm like, I got to see this before it disappears. And so I went to visit a friend of mine who was a mountaineer, very experienced. He was attempting to be the oldest gentleman to accomplish the 7 summits, the tallest mountain on each of the 7 continents. And so he sort of mentored me how to do this. And so off I went. I went off to climb Kilimanjaro.
Okay, we just pop in on our plane and okay. Oh, let's get into the little bit of this was all new. This was absolute. You've never done anything like this. So that preparation it's absolutely critical. So where did you start? What did that look like that first day?
So I knew nothing about high altitude climbing. This wasn't just hiking. So I went to college at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. So I knew high altitude climbers and I'm thinking, these guys are crazy. I can go hiking and reach the bottom of a glacier and come home and have spaghetti and a shower. And these people were in a snow cave for 2 weeks. I'm like, what's wrong with them, right? So, but I decided, if I'm going to see these iconic glaciers and this iconic mountain, I really need to sort of have a plan. So I got a little notebook. It was a spiral notebook, simple as can be. And on the last page, I wrote Summit Kilimanjaro. And then I went back to the front of it and I started writing down, brainstorming, okay, like, what do you think you need to get there? Well, I need some transportation. Okay, this is in Africa someplace. So I think I need immunizations because like God knows what they have there. I think they have malaria. And then I have to condition and et cetera, et cetera. So I continued to write this down at the top. And my plan was every day I would tackle one thing, one milestone, right? So example, immunizations. This was back in the day when you had plug in, dial up, internet. So exactly. So I put it in my computer, waited 30 minutes to get the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and all they had was their address, their telephone number, and the hours of operation. But I wrote down the telephone numbers on that immunizations page, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until I had all the information that I needed to get to that last page.
See, but you know what? That's just so encouraging, supportive, and absolutely you worked backwards. And then that's that. So then anything can be accomplished if you just give yourself that that notebook of life. I mean, that was very metaphorical, but it was absolutely just a simple thing. But you wrote it down, so that made it, become reality. And that was just this is okay, whatever you want to do, because you're beyond a leadership coach. But that whole piece was just so meaningful.
Thank you. Anybody can do this. You can do this. I know you have in many ways, right? But anybody who's listening to this can do this. It's much easier to visualize that goal and write it down, and then brainstorm along the way, and then leave some blank pages, because there's things you're going to have to learn and realize along the way. So when I was doing the immunizations, I actually called CDC and said, I need some immunizations. I'm going to Africa. And the woman on the phone said, well, where are you going to Africa? And I had no idea. I had no idea where Kilimanjaro was. So I stuttered and said, I'll call you back, and hung up. And then I had to go to my family world atlas and look through Africa, which is huge, right? And find a needle in the haystack to find out where that mountain was, and wrote that down on a new page. Geography. Kilimanjaro is in Tanzania, and the closest city is Arusha, right? So we don't know everything, and we don't have to know everything beginning our journey. We can learn it on the way.
And the pages that you leave blank, and the whole that is all of this in there, is allowing space for yourself to just say, you'll get it done. You'll get it done little bit by little bit. And I think did you use the analogy how to eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Everybody has. Yes, that's a very old analogy, but it's very true. I mean, how do you get a project done? How do you get your life accomplished? How do you get your new business up and running? Right? You must take one bite at a time. As a mountain climber, one step at a time. The further you reach higher in altitude, the more difficult it becomes to take that step. But you don't give up. You take one small step at a time.
So because the book exploded when we were on our way to Everest. I mean, my goodness, and you know what is, there were so many things I didn't even know that. So, okay, so now we're going to Everest, right? We're getting on our plane, and say what, and I love this because there's a song about it, but what's the town that you jump off at?
It's a mystical, magical place. It's Kathmandu.
Love that. I mean, I knew Kathmandu, like, just that's such a cool sounding like place, but didn't know where it was.
Right. Yeah, I had no idea as well. One of those things on my pages, the top, right, made very famous in the 70s, and that's attributed to the song. But it's where the old meets the new, and people come for trekking and mountaineering and escape and all these meditation, growth, personal growth. It's an amazing place. Highly recommend everybody to go. Kathmandu.
So, and just so you can say you went there, but you know what was fascinating? The whole breakdown of the Sherpa people.
Yes.
And then as you moved forward with them, we'll get into that. Their grace, their selflessness in serving others, and yet their courage. And it's just, there's something now, are most of them Buddhists? So it's that Buddhist, it's just something really amazing that's about the people. I didn't know either until reading it. So the
Yes,
world of the show.
they're Buddhists.
Mhm.
They're very religious, and they, you know, believe in reincarnation. So I mean, it's tragic when someone dies, but they believe they're coming back in another form or coming back in again, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, I have since written a piece about my interactions, and there are three characteristics that I would definitely um, place on the Sherpa culture, Sherpa people, and that would be purpose, integrity, and motivation. And they have this in a way that is very balanced and very extended, both for themselves, their families, their community, the climbing companies that they work with, and me, people like me,
Yeah.
right? And it's just a remarkable, they become your friends, close to family, an experience you'll never forget.
And you put your life in their trust, in their hands.
For sure, for sure. And so therefore, there was a tragedy when I was there. It really rocked my soul because you trust them, you love them, you respect them, and you mean them no harm, right? So if something occurs or happens on your watch, it's also your tragedy.
So what was fascinating though, this is micro climate, micro place it's an industry is devoted to the mountain, to Everest. So whether it's hospitality or those coming up, like even the man that blew my mind, and I don't know if it was base 4, who was the amazing chef, and yet he was going to eventually go and have his tea like house somewhere, and well, he didn't make that, we find out. But and how high up was that? I mean, just to start getting to real of like what that's like, and then 26,000 feet. I mean, just I was at you were at 16. I'm like, how high up does it go? You know? Um, Talk a little bit about this. It's an actual. It's a place, but it's. I'm trying to find the right word, but it's a micro community that is based on serving people to go up and down the mountain,
Mhm.
and their whole lives are literally given for that.
The service of others. And so, yeah, so the Sherpa culture, the Sherpa people live in this area in the Kumbu, they call it. And so it's very extensive valley. And but in every aspect of their life, they provide for the tourists. So the tourists are actually trekkers and then the mountaineers. And there's several peaks in the Kumbu Valley that you can um, summit or attempt to summit, and Everest is one of them. So the community, as you already mentioned, they might have hotels, cafes, tea houses. They might aid in supplying the yaks that they raise the yaks, right? That go up and down. They could work as cooks, as you're talking about Anj, who was up at 21,000 feet. And so, or you could have them as my friend Dawa Tempa, who was working for a mountaineering company, but he was basically transporting heavier loads up and down. Some of the tents, some of the cook requirement things like the stoves, or they have porta potties that they dig in. And so things that we as the climbers aren't necessarily bringing up and down, but the support staff, those who work in the industry are. And they're very devoted, but they're very personal. They're They're so kind
They're
and giving of
giving.
themselves. Yes, it's a community that you feel like you are so connected to. And that could be the Buddhism. It could be that they do this every single year, and this is their tourist, their industry. But I have, they're not European, they're not American, they're not South American. They're some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
So okay, this also going in, and so that's in there. This sense of like safety, love, and support, because that's the only even tipping what they do coming in. But then the piece that there's so much before someone steps on that season, and even to like goes to step on the mountain. There's already like rigging set up. There's like foot niches, and I mean, is that there's just all so much set up to take and support these mountaineers.
It kind of happens at the same time. So we were the first camp to get there. So my mountaineering company, and so then comes in. I think something that you're talking about are the ice doctors, and they're a crazy bunch of people because they take high risk, but they'll take ladders up in through this ice fall, and an ice fall is much like what we think of as a waterfall coming down a mountain, but it's ice and boulders. And so there's crevasses that have distance, or seracs, which are ice boulders that can come tumbling down. And so on a daily basis, the ice doctors will bring ladders up and place the ladder across this crevasse, go to the other side and anchor them on each side. Right?
Well, tell everyone what a crevasse is if they don't know.
Well, a crevasse is so as the avalanche or the ice fall comes down a mountainside, it's moving about the Everest or Khumbu ice fall is moving about 3 to 4 feet per day. So if you think about a waterfall, it's constant down the mountain, right? Well, snow can't be constant in a smooth way. So a piece will come down and then you have a separation, and then another piece will come down and someplace else it'll open up. And so then you just have this opening that sometimes you can see the bottom and sometimes you can't see anywhere.
And sometimes you don't even realize they're there. This is one of the really part of the danger, right?
That's usually a little higher up. So the ice fall, you usually can kind of navigate, and that's why the ice doctors are working there. But when you get on top, there's snow on top of these crevasses. So you can be walking along and your foot can go right through into one of these crevasses, and that's why you're on rope all the time. I'm connected to my next person, or I'm connected to an anchor line, so that in fact, if my foot or both feet go through, I don't fall to my death or get crushed inside of one of these.
All right, so hold on a second, because this was one of the things. So you had your line, you all like roped together, and that you really did make the point that it's absolutely, and again, the value of team and trust and building and everyone showing up, because it's only in the team together will the individual succeed. But when that is happening, you're saying that if someone did fall through, how did it all not to go that everyone just goes down? I know there's a deliberate on that, but that went through my mind. So how is the anchoring and that the team holds you if you do go one of these correct?
So on Mount McKinley, Denali, and I put this in the book, one of our individuals did go through. So we're walking along, that we were separated into 2 teams. You don't want to be too long on a line. So it's about 5 people per line, 4 to 5 people per line. And you have anywhere from 9 to 16 feet of rope between you, depending on the terrain. And so and you want it somewhat taut, right? You don't want it dragging along, but you don't want it too tight that you're pulling your other person along, right? So you have to really pay attention to your team dynamics, as in business. You really have to pay attention to team dynamics, right? So as you move along, we had the back team actually had one of our guys, and you hear the terrible word falling. because you have to let everybody know what's going on. Immediately, the two guys on his side turned and went into the other direction and tightened his rope immediately.
Okay.
So he didn't fall. He was dangling. I interviewed him again for the book. He was dangling underneath, right? His feet were touching nothing, but they had pulled him so tight that he didn't go into the crevasse past his waist. So the back person anchors down, gets down into the snow, and makes sure he can't move at all. And the front person pulls him out. And it could have been either way, either direction, but somebody, this is the technique you're taught in mountaineering school. So they popped him out and he was fine and safe and all that kind of stuff. But it really takes team dynamics to pay attention to what's going on. How are you doing? How's that rope line? Are you tired? Are you falling behind? All these kind of things that you need to ask any team that sometimes we forget to do.
So with that, let's talk about the ice falls.
Okay, back to that.
Okay. So the ice, because again, this is one of the, it's a very dangerous. So again, there's all these microclimates as you go up in altitude. And then we'll get into that. There's actually a place on the mountain that it's like 90 degrees. I mean, but so the ice falls. So are they literally like sheets of ice? I mean, I'm picturing the waterfalls, the frozen waterfalls. And are you literally then saying, okay, we're going up these?
It's more like layers of hills and valleys versus ice falls, because ice falls, like ice climbing, and that can kind of go straight up, and that's actually generated from a waterfall or a frozen river, and you get to go straight up. This happens to be over ladders over the crevasses. Maybe you walk flat for a while and then all of a sudden you're going straight up, and this is where some Sherpa has dug in the stair rungs, because it's so far up that you have to, dig your feet in and go up for 10, 15 feet. And then it might go down again. So it's this convoluted sort of rubble. That's what it really looks like, more or less rubble. And when you first look at it, you're like, okay, I can do that. But you don't see the movement. But as I said, it's moving 3 to 4 feet per day. So one day you may go through it, and as what happened to me, the first day that we went through this one area, it was merely a little hop. Then another day we went through it, it was not only a gap, but had the side on my side had dropped, and it was requiring a jump upward that I thought I would never make. And a friend of mine, one of my climbing mates, actually came down to help me make the gap, because again, it wasn't just jumping across, but jumping across and jumping upward to the next level. So it's very volatile and ever changing on a daily basis. You might wake up one day and go through and it seems pretty simple, and the next day something might have changed by 10 feet in height or 6 feet in width.
Yeah. So this is a great point. And using this in life. So again, it's definitely about the team. And there was a few places in the book, no, more than a few places, that am I pulling my weight? Am I showing up? Am I, and this is going through your head. So for instance, the time when you, was it late getting your clothes on? You couldn't get packed up, and then you had to get the zipper done for you. You came out, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, my team is waiting for me." This is our stories as we get in our own way,
right?
And then you show up, right, and really all a little bit boggled up inside. And what happened?
So the idea was I couldn't get that. We had now changed over to oxygen, right? So I had two oxygen tanks, one that I was breathing off of and one I had to store, but I couldn't get it in my pack. And I was freaking out because my guide told me, you got to get out. We got to get these tents up to the next level. The Sherpas are here. Get out immediately. So I know what it's like. I have Raynaud's. That means my hands and my feet start to shut down if I'm cold. So I know what it's like to get out of the tents early and stand around and wait for your teammates. You start to get cold. You start to swing your hands or swing your feet to get the circulation down to them. And you start to get irritated, uncomfortable, cold, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm keeping my team, waiting for me. Now, also, I have to admit that this is part of that lack of oxygen at this level, but nonetheless, so crazy thinking. But we all have crazy thinking. Well, it doesn't have to just be altitude induced. We all have crazy thinking, right? So I finally get it all together. I get out of my tent. I get in line. And this is a very dangerous part. It's on the Lhotse face. So you have to, as soon as you step out of your tent, you have to clip into a line so you don't go sliding down this, as you said, 90-degree area, right? So I'm standing there and I come out and I'm all flustered and my guide, Dave Morton, who's just amazing. I've been with him on another mountain. He comes up to me, he goes, "You okay?" And I'm like, I'm so sorry, just about in tears. And remember, I've got a huge face mask on and goggles. Yeah, exactly. And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I'm late." And he goes, and I burst out with tears. I'm not crying or sobbing, but like I can feel the tears. And it's like, "Oh no, dry those. You're going to freeze your face off." Right. And he says, "What are you talking about? You're the first one out here." So it really is about perception. And sometimes we are so tough on ourselves, right? We really need to stand back and take a deep breath and do calming thoughts if that's what needs to be done, because perception is there's a good chance you're not to blame.
And it's giving yourself grace, giving yourself that space, and getting out of your own way.
Yes, all of that.
And that landed, as there was so much in the book that landed. So we're going to do a second because I can't wait to but let's talk about, okay, this is let's do a little bit more. So you did your first climb, right, on the first mountain, and then you came back home. You're like, okay, home. I played in the flowers. Everyone else was still there. I'm taking in it was amazing to be alive in a moment on this earth. And my God, everything's gorgeous, right? So you come back home. You're sitting there at lunch. Tell him what are you feeling inside? How are you now after the fact?
So there, I was, first of all, of course, I'm not going to lie. I was elated at the fact that I made it. And you're right. Talk about flowers. It was beautiful coming down. I was very lucky on Kilimanjaro to see the wildlife, the monkeys, the flower, all these wonderful, gorgeous things that many people are, I don't want to say too much in a hurry, but don't pause enough to see. So I was so lucky. And then I come home and I'm like, I don't know. There's something wrong. And it took me about 2 weeks. And I called my friend who had helped me get there. And I said, Al, I don't feel right. I don't know. There's something wrong with me. He goes, "Oh my God, you have it." I'm like, what parasite do I have? Right?
You just came back from Africa.
Yes, exactly. They have these tsetse flies and they have this, all this stuff. It's like, what do I have? What is making me feel this way?
I don't know if it's worse though. What did you get?
I got the climbing bug. And so he said, "Well, why don't we have lunch and let's talk about maybe what the next might look like."
I love that. And so your life has transformed, and now you stand to support others transforming their life. So what's going on with you now? Because I want another 2 hours to keep going on. But just where do you stand now? And your life is different. than before, right? And how is that you're serving others now?
So when I came down for Kilimanjaro, I mean, not Kilimanjaro, from Everest, you're like, okay, I've been to the top of the world. Now what? And it didn't have to be another mountaintop, but it did have to be another challenge. And so I really thought about what the next should be. And I've chatted with you before. So I'm the gal at the grocery store that talks to the checkout gal, you know.
Do that too.
Ah, yeah, right. I'm the person that you meet at the post office because, like, I'm still using the post office, and I talk to the postmaster, and so I'm that person. I didn't come for money. I didn't come from a climbing legacy. I didn't come. There's so many things. I'm you. I'm so many people, right? And so I said, hey, I just did an amazing quest. I really did this thing that you dream about, you read in a book about, but I have the potential to help you, to help another, to help someone else get to their dream. So I came home, and I'm a lifelong learner. So I went and got certified of all ways in coaching. So life coach, wellness coach, executive coach, all the things that you can possibly get, right? Because I figured the next stage of my life is really helping other people, inspiring other people to reach the impossible successfully. That's what I am all about now.
And that's different for every person, right?
Oh, not everybody wants to climb to the top of Everest, but almost everybody has some Everest.
I just I love that. And again, do you start your clients and say, okay, get that fresh notebook and go to the back and let's start and let's find out what that is.
And it's a great way to start. I mean, even in a conversation, if I'm coaching you or coaching a corporation, what is it? What is it that lights you up that you want to get to? You know, oh yeah, I want to make more money this next year. Okay, but what does? Well, I really want to get into China. Right. So you hear something that's like that's it. They didn't want to admit that secret. That's
Well,
the
they might
back
not have
page.
known it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the point. People
yeah,
don't always know what that is. And
yeah.
then, so you also help people bring that out to get in touch with that purpose,
Yeah.
that calling, whatever we want to call it, that place where you're just magical.
Yes, exactly. And everybody has that. It doesn't matter if it's I want to be closer to my grandchildren. I want to make sure that my company and my employees are successful. Therefore, I'm successful. It doesn't matter if I want to run my first marathon this year. Okay. All right. It can be anything that seems to be your big goals, your big summit, your Everest.
I absolutely love that. And with that being said, is there another book coming?
Two more.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what? Okay, so you've done 7 mountains, and then we also talked about that since you were in Antarctica, you got some skis. I said I got some time to do. You did go see the penguins, though, right?
No, there's
Oh,
no
that's
wildlife on the interior, no bird, no, if you get to the very center, so the South Pole, which I did, there's a research station. So you got to meet a lot of crazies there. Like, what are you doing here?
it's
But
not
it was
quite that you just show
fascinating.
up for dinner, right? They don't
Yeah.
may see people for like months on end.
Well, you got cookies and tea. That's what you got.
But so the what's next?
So I'm currently writing two more books right now. I'm writing. They both all start with "Lead from the Top," and then the subtitles, of course, because there's more stories. Like
Oh, I
I didn't
can't
write,
wait.
yeah, 1 through 7 and then 2. Right. I wrote little snippets of how it applied to leadership, and it's kind of the same thing. And I'm going to take the opportunity this time to get other people involved and committed. So I'm interviewing CEOs of organizations of 25 people or above, right? Association leaders or principals at healthcare, hospitals, et cetera, right? Who are going, we've had trying times over the last 6, 7, 8 months, right? Obstacles, many obstacles as I have gone through. So, how have you dealt with this? Where is your resilience? How are you coming out? I really want to hear other people's stories as I weave them into my stories.
Okay. And again, it comes back to the team.
Yes,
And it
yes.
takes a team to reach your greatest adventure, which is life.
Which is life. We're all in this together.
So tell everyone how, first of all, Lead from the Top. It's on Amazon. Go get it. Go get it. Go get it.
Yes.
Where else? Where else can people find you? I mean, if someone wanted to work with you.
Okay, I have a website, www.leadfromthetop.com. Of course, you can reach out to me just personally, Suzanne at leadfromthetop.com. I'm now in both Kindle and hardcover book. I think, well, it might be soft cover. I think hardcover is available. I just haven't seen it yet. So it's available, quick read, but it will change your life.
Are you going to release the photos now? Okay, first of all, so I went on the website after reading, and I'm glad I did it in that order, because I saw pictures where, in my imagination, what this was looking like. Don't do that first. Go get in touch, but don't look at the pictures. Read the book first. But do you have like a photo journal that is going to be released as a secondary? I'd love to see that.
So, so the problem is this was done in the 2000s, and so my cell phone takes better photos than the camera I used at the time. So I am adding more and more, and that's my this year's goal as well. Not only writing the book, adding more pictures to the website, so people really get a feel of what the South Pole adventure was like, or what Choyoyu. I had to climb this ice wall, and it just, I mean, things that I was not prepared for. And so you watching it, you can then, after you read the book, go click on it and go, wow, because your mind thinks, yes, okay, and I got this, and it's this big, and then you go look at the pictures, and you're like, it's this big. So
What was the last part of Everest? You were saying that it's about and this is like before reaching the summit, right?
yes.
That it's the space is about the width of a sidewalk. And so normally you wouldn't fall off a sidewalk.
Right.
But realistically, were you like literally like 90 degrees and like doing this and like,
Oh, for sure. There are many of those. So I have a friend actually has a photo of the climb we made from the balcony to the south summit, but it was during nighttime. And so I saw it during day. Someone had taken a picture of it on the other mountain, Lhotse. And had I known that I had to go up there, I'm not sure I would have.
and if you saying that
So intimidating,
because you may not have wanted to do if it was light. That's another thing too, right? There's something to take in about that. Sometimes just go and do it and don't look back. But
and don't look back. So many people can climb up as long as you're not looking down. Right. So a lot, and that's an analogy for everyone.
Yeah.
So keep moving upward, keep growing, keep developing. You don't look back. What's back there anyway, right? Maybe a mistake, maybe something you missed. It doesn't matter. Keep moving up and forward. That is where you're headed now.
I love that. Okay, so this has been so much fun. I can't wait what's coming up next. And we will get you back. Okay. Yes.
Love it.
All
You're
right.
fantastic. This has been great.
Okay, good. Again, it's Suzanne Nance, Lead from the Top. Go read the book. Go read the book and learn about Kathmandu. Now I know where that is, and the adventures on Everest and the other 6 mountains. And look Suzanne up and leadfromthetop.com. And again, thank you for sharing your adventures with us, and thank you for leading us to continue leading our adventures.
Thank you so much, and namaste.
So take care, my friend. Namaste.